So, you were in a coma. This should be interesting. In 2016, I was in a coma from March 31st to May the 5th. Wow! Then half awake for another month after that. It was like the longest, scariest dream of my life. What? I was medically induced by a fentanyl drip for about a week at first, and let me tell you, fentanyl is a demon. Wacky dreams about fighting corrupt hospital officials, so my brain knew where I was. Whoa, God, that's crazy. They didn't think I'd ever talk or walk again, but in the hospital bed I laughed at an episode of that 70s show and inclined every day after that. Improved, I'm assuming. Put me at about 85% health overall these days, but pretty much an average guy. Oh, it was a head injury, had a seizure in the bathroom that made me fall onto the sink. Whoa, that's crazy. Glad you're better now, bro. I had meningitis when I was 12, which got me misdiagnosed for stomach flu and ended up with me being taken to the hospital last minute. The last memory I had was falling asleep, watching the emergency news on the Brussels airport attack. I later on had a sort of fever dream, which ended up to be true, about my parents driving me to the ER saying it's okay over and over again. I couldn't move or talk, so it seemed more like a dream than something that was actually happening. I saw the lights of the ER parking lot, which made me close my eyes, and after that it was like taking a nap. I had no awareness of time at all. It's like going to sleep and just waking up what feels like a second later, but it's actually morning already. That's crazy. I woke up 6 days later, highly drugged, but only gained consciousness the day after. My first memory after waking up is opening my laptop in the hospital bed to play Minecraft. Yeah, let's go. I have no idea what happened or what I said when I woke up before that. That's crazy. I can only compare it to when you're little and wake up at a friend's house and don't know where you are. I was in a coma for 2 months after a bad car accident. That's crazy. It wasn't medically induced. It was thanks to brain damage. Oh man, that sucks. When I woke up, I was alone in the hospital room and had no clue what happened or why I was there. That's so scary. I had a neck brace on due to a broken neck, so I figured something was wrong with my neck, but was unsure how or what had happened. For some reason, I thought I was 60 years old. I was in my 20s. What? I was paranoid and scared, but didn't know why I was there. I used context clues to figure out I was in the hospital. It was frightening. After about 5 minutes, I decided to go back to sleep. 2 months of sleep wasn't quite long enough. What? That's so mental. Got hit by a truck. I was in a coma for 4 days. It felt like a power nap, but in the hospital. Edit, I was worried when I woke up. I had no idea where or why I was. What? So crazy. I wasn't in one for long, just under a week. While I was in the coma, I didn't remember a thing. When I came out of it, I just remember hearing my mum yell to the attending, "He's up!" Whoa. Then I woke up with a bunch of white coats in the room. I was super stiff and incredibly confused. Oddly enough, I kept having vivid dreams of myself in a coma after the fact. Still have them to this day. That's mental. They're almost like an out-of-body experience because I can see myself laying in the bed with people around me. Whoa. So crazy. This is so interesting to read everyone's experience. I'm an ICU nurse and I work with patients in comas all the time. I talk to them, I let them know why I'm touching them, whether it be to give them medication, draw lab work, bathe them, clean them after an incontinent episode. Oh, not good. I'll also reorient them to where, why and how they're in that situation. I'll also tell them when their loved ones call to check on them. So crazy. I would feel awful knowing someone I took care of had flashbacks of feeling violated during a coma. Crazy. So this person's name is I touch myself to sleep. Okay, same here. Work critical care dialysis, and I always talk to my patients, telling them what I'm doing, how it's going to feel, offer reassurance, and sometimes, unlucky for them, I hum or sing a song. I like to assume they can hear at least a little of what I'm telling them. I assume a coma is a scary place, and if I can offer even 5% comfort to them, then so be it. That's so crazy. Spider Mechanic. I was in a medically induced coma for about a week. The coma itself is not much to talk about. There is just a gap in your memory. Even from before it happened, I don't even remember the accident that brought me there in the first place. Waking up from it is a much different story though. Since I was fully dosed by painkillers and sedatives and whatnot, I was basically high as a kite, and since the trauma I suffered was very serious, my brain constructed very stressful, vivid nightmares I remember to this day. That's so crazy to think about. Oh, it's scary though. I was in a coma for 3 days following a serious cycling accident, medically induced. I woke up with zero recollection of why I was there or what was said while I was out. What? It is easily the scariest situation I found myself in, but I can't say I remember it. I woke up to my mum and dad in the hospital with me and my body in traction of some sort, and that was scarier to me. So crazy. I was in a very short coma, 6 days, after a brain hemorrhage. I recall nothing during the coma. I have a fuzzy understanding of my first week or two after waking up, having pieced it together by the stories I was told. That's so mental. And memories of the days leading up to it were temporarily wiped out, though they have since returned. This was over a decade ago, so take this with a grain of salt. My memory in general is imperfect at best. Edit, I should mention that my coma was induced so they could stabilize me and drain the blood via my skull. Oh my sweet Jesus. That is mental. Was hit by a car when I was 5 years old. Oh, that's so sad. Ended up with toxic shock syndrome and went into a coma for 4 months. I just remember some very weird dreams, which I can still recall vividly 26 years later. That's such a, man, 4 months is so long. Someone mentioned something about visiting another realm, and that's pretty close to the mark. Scary, like how many people have had this happen to them. It's crazy. I had a motorcycle wreck a few years ago. Someone texting blew a stop sign and 8 ended up T-boning them. Not sure if coma is the correct term, but I was definitely wait, let's start this again. Not sure if coma is the correct term, but I was definitely unconscious for 2 days. Honestly, just felt like the worst, least refreshing nap in the history of naps. Are so mad. Had the wreck on a Sunday, woke up sometime Tuesday afternoon/evening and asked if the bike was okay. It wasn't. Not me, but my dad has described his coma after his car accident. He was pulled up a little too far at a stop sign, and a guy who was speeding and on his phone swerved off the road. So he was in a coma for about 2 months. On my end, it wasn't like the movies. He just didn't wake up miraculously. It was 2 months of steady improvements. One eye opened, then a few days later his other eye was half open. Then he could wiggle a toe, then he could move his fingers, etc. On his end, he said he could hear bits and pieces of what was happening around him, but it was like a dream that he couldn't wake up from. Oh my god, so awful. When me and my 2 younger siblings would come in and talk to him, his heart rate would go down. When a football game was on and his friends came to sit with him and watch it, the nurses made them turn it off once his team started losing because his heart rate blew up. What? Edit, he's a fan of the Miami Dolphins, so I guess his heart rate never fully returned to normal. Edit 2, an award. I've never got an award before, but seriously, thanks for the award and this story. My wife was in a diabetic coma for 2 weeks when she was in elementary school. She knew her sugar was low, then all of a sudden she woke up in the hospital with absolutely no idea that any time had passed. So crazy. So crazy. I was in one for like 2 weeks. I would not wish it on anyone. For me, I was in a long dream. I did realise I was asleep for a long time. I was still able to feel and hear, which was interpreted into my dream. What? Example, my hands were restrained so I would not pull out any tubes, and my dream was that I was being held in a prison. Oh my god, so awful. So scary. I had anti-NMDA, encephalitis, I don't know what that is, which was causing me seizures, so I was put in a medically induced coma for about a month and a half. Overall hospital stay, 2.5 months. Whoa. I don't remember most things from when I was sick, even the 2 weeks before leading up to my first seizure. Even before they put me in a coma, I don't have any recollection being admitted and treated. It's super weird, and I've just grown to accept the gaps in memory. Haha, it's kind of funny now, 4 years later, thinking about how I was just chilling one summer, partying and going to bars, and then the next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital and it was Thanksgiving. That's so crazy. My wife was in a coma for about a month. At first I didn't bring the kids up because of how she looked, but in the 3rd week her colour was closer to normal and there was less stuff going on as she was pretty stable compared to the first 2 weeks. Anywho, I had told the kids that while mum wasn't responsive there was a chance she could hear us, so they should be as brave as they can and sound as happy as they can. I described to them everything I thought that might spook them, from the tubes and wires to things beeping randomly and doctors and nurses coming and going. They were awesome. Even in the initial shock at seeing her with a ventilator, they were vocally loving, hugged and patted, held her hand, etc. That's so cute, bless them. We sat in the room a while and just talked. At one point I asked the kids what their favourite vacation was. Instead of our Disney and Universal Studios trips, they both agreed it was the road trip we took from Vegas down to Arizona. Driving all over, seeing all the incredible sights. We talked about rides and amusements in Vegas, then Hoover Dam, the Grand Canyon, the Painted Desert, cave dwellings, petrified forest, silly road stops, a cheap motel we stayed in Flagstaff. We laughed and cried just a little. It was as nice as it could be. They kissed her goodbye, saying, "See you soon." God, crikey, that's emotional, isn't it? My wife heard it all, but in a hallucinatory way. She now has, to this day, nearly 10 years later, a vivid memory of a second Arizona vacation she went on with us. She even asked me early on after she woke up if we had gone on a vacation recently. Her mind went through every detail we talked about and even added onto it as if it all actually happened, and the memories of it are real as any. Whoa, what an emotional roller coaster that one is. Crikey. I was in a medically induced coma for a couple of weeks. I was 8 years old and contracted dengue fever. The coma was necessary because my fever was through the roof and they needed to protect me from any brain damage. I had blood transfusions the whole time for the dengue and was being fed through a tube. Don't remember much while I was out, but when I did come to, had the strangest craving for mushroom soup. When I came out of the hospital, nothing really felt different. That's crazy. It was just a necessity to save my life. Am I Sam? I am Sam. I am. I know, am I? I've been in 2 medically induced comas. Both times it was like being in a dreamless sleep. I was unaware of time passing, which was weird, waking up and then being told it was Thursday when last remembered it was a Monday. I don't remember anyone talking to me, but my mum said she spoke to me every day, and the only time I would react was when she mentioned a certain name. She said whenever she said his name, my eyes would flutter. Other than that, there was no response at all. Crazy. It's also very confusing, the first 30 minutes at least, as the drugs are still wearing off. You're intubated, have a nasogastric tube for feeding, a central line for drugs and a catheter for urine. Oh my god. All of this is usually removed, which isn't pleasant, and you're still trying to wake up and make sense of your situation. I would say not one of the top 10 experiences to have before you die. I can only imagine. Not a coma, but I'll classify this as sleeping in odd places, not on purpose, okay? A little bit different. I blacked out for quite a bit of time due to heat stroke. Apparently I was just passed out on the ground. I woke up feeling a warm tingling sensation. I honestly thought I was just in bed, but no, I was in the middle of a shopping centre with my brother standing over me laughing. What? That was mental. It was odd and very interesting. I think you'll like this answer. It may be unique. I was playing a lot of Halo 4 at the time, and I also had that weird Android Galaxy Live wallpaper. So when I was knocked out for over a month, I saw that galaxy spinning around as if it were a Halo 4 loading screen. And what's really weird is I remember that odd thing being at the bottom right of the screen that said, "Don't turn off your Xbox 360 console." Honestly, being there too. That's so crazy. Kinda weird and cool. I don't know. I was in that area of my mind for about 30 seconds and then I woke up. Remove the shrapnel, the name. I got injured in Iraq in 2010. I was in a medically induced coma for about a week. I flatlined 4 times. Oh my god. I wasn't too aware of the outside world. Pain? Definitely. Wow. I am highly resistant to pain meds, sedatives and stimulants by a genetic mutation. So, me getting 1000 milligrams of fentanyl for an hour operation is completely normal, not including ketamine and hydromorphine. Ketamine being in a pain pump going in my spinal cord. I was in a completely other reality for that week. I heard conversations, felt certain things, and occasionally opened my eyes. Because the propofol, I can't remember how it's spelled, and whatever of drugs that are meant to keep you asleep were mostly effective, but I would wake up and start fighting the nurses in Walter Reed and BAMC. I have some trouble separating my comatose mind from reality. That's mad. What a scary place. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Especially for the first 3 months after my injuries. Since I was on so much meds, still kinda am, but nowhere near what I was while I was in the hospital. It felt like a series of dreams. I think I was a detective at one point, also a plane pilot and a spaceship captain. Crazy. It was dark. I was in one for 4 months a couple of years ago. It didn't feel like 4 months, just like a long sleep, with the occasional memory of my mum crying or begging me to wake up. I remember this vividly. I woke up in the hospital surrounded by my friends and family, and the first thing I remember asking was, "You should have posted this with the serious tag." It felt like a very long sleep. I mean very long sleep. Well, kids don't get hit by a bus, kids. Whoa. That's horrible. I spent about 3 weeks in a coma after being a pedestrian struck by a vehicle the day after Christmas, 1 year back in high school. What? I don't remember anything from the Thanksgiving before through the end of the following February. I suffered a massive brain injury which still has an effect on my memory today. Whoa. Maybe I would have some memories from the coma under a different set of circumstances, but I don't plan on testing that. Yeah, absolutely. No memories of the time during my medically induced coma. My first memory after waking is all of a wall of electronics, lots of different machines and blinking lights. My mother says that there wasn't anything like that in my hospital room, so I'm not sure if it was part of a dream, haze of waking or what. After the coma, I noticed my memory was impacted. I was missing memories from my life and I had false memories as well. Like I would be describing these very vivid memories to my family and they would just insist that that never happened. That's scary. Sometimes I feel like I walked into someone else's life or I'm living a different me's life. Whoa. I had 2 in the 5 years I was in hospital. To me, it felt almost a suspended animation. I felt warm but couldn't hear or feel anything around me, so like floating in a black warm hole. Felt like minutes. Parents told me it was for 37 days. Oh my. The other, I remember absolutely nothing about it in regards to feeling. Whoa. I was in an induced coma for a week. I felt everything. People think it's like being asleep for a very long time, but I felt every poke and prod and could hear everything going on in the room. That's even worse. I couldn't do or say anything because I was hooked to a bunch of tubes with a giant ventilator lodged down my throat. It was beyond traumatizing. I don't think I'll ever heal from it. Oh, I feel for you, man. Scratchy McBallsy, okay? My nurse fell in love with me, but I was only faking being in a coma to prevent having to testify at my father's trial. This sounds a bit much, this. I finally couldn't take it anymore and needed to reciprocate my feelings for her, but she called me a coward for faking the coma. I'm a monster. Okay, that's a bit much. Don't know what's going on there. Don't like it. Hamarak says, it was all black. Then I started hearing some forest sounds and some silver text popped up in front of me. After a while, I saw some strange men, and that's when I heard it. Hey you, you're finally awake. Whoa, weird. My story is more comical than anything. Had some turkey on Thanksgiving that upset my stomach. Sparing the gory detail of my short stint as a fire hydrant, I wound up in the hospital, and the doctors gave me Epfergan, I don't know how to say that, may have spelled that wrong, to stop the torrent of regret that plagued me. Oh god. Well, as fate would have it, I'm apparently allergic to I don't know how to say it, to E, and it put me in a week-long medical coma. I had a lot of weird dreams, one including me interacting with the doctors and people who came to visit me. Otherwise, best sleep I ever had. Motorcycle accident had trauma resulting in a 3-day coma. Bilateral temporal fractures with a nice TBI. Sadly, I lost a month of memory for the most part prior and no recollection of the coma after. It's crazy. No memories, which bugs me to this day. 10 years later and no changes in recall. 1 out of 10 wouldn't do again. Would not recommend to a friend. Had a grand mal seizure the day after my 13th birthday and was put into a medically induced coma for 3 days. It was pretty much just falling asleep. Waking up was the weird part. My parents were both at work, so my best friend took off school to sit with me. She talked to me while I was under and told me a few things she'd never told me before. And while I don't remember being talked to while I was zonked out on the drugs, I do remember the most of what she told me. That's mad. So crazy, some of these stories. A lot of these sounds very similar to when I had my seizure last March. I'd been laying in bed after waking up for like 45 minutes with just my boxers on, and the last thing I remember was putting my head back as if to go back to sleep. When I woke up, I was sitting on the edge of my bed with 2 EMTs in my face asking me questions and a shirt and shorts on. According to my mum, I had been awake for a few minutes before that, but I wasn't coherent. I think she said I forgot what year it was. I also released my perception of time prior to the seizure was off. Things that happened before felt like they were 2 weeks ago. Mad. My stepfather was in a motorcycle accident when he was 25. He had seen Children of the Corn earlier that night. He woke up in the hospital a week later with absolutely no memory of the past year. Whoa. He ended up having to go see Children of the Corn again. Madness. Not me, but my friend Casey. She got into a car crash when she was 14 and fell into a coma. She was out for about 2 months and I never got to see her. She was an online friend who lives in Canada, but I always messaged her sister and told her I missed Casey and she would pull through. When Casey woke up, one of the first things she did was get her phone and message me. My phone got wiped by itself the next day and I never got to talk to her again. Casey, I miss your chick. What? That's sad. I was in a coma for 2 years. When I was out of it, I feel that I was sleeping for 1 night only. 2 years. Madness. I was in a coma for 9 months after getting struck by lightning from a particle accelerator explosion. Wow. The explosion swept dark matter across the city I was in, but now I'm part of something bigger. I'm part of the Speed Force. You're just messing with me. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Please do like and subscribe if you did, and we'll see you in the next one. Oh, with the help of my friends at Star Labs. Okay, this is all a joke. You are the Flash, I get it. Oh, I love it. Good stuff.